Hi, I'm Terry. I'm 80 years old. I live in Marshville, North Carolina. Grew up in southern West Virginia in the coal fields. Proud husband of a woman for 58 years, 2 kids and 3 grandchildren. I like shooting sports. I like backpacking and, a little whitewater rafting occasionally, that kind of thing. So anything being outside. In 2019, I was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia, or CLL. I have a history of skin cancer, so I have a dermatologist that I see regularly. My wife had pointed out to me that I had a place on my back that they should look at, so when they took a biopsy of it, they called me a couple days later and they said, "You've got cancer." I didn't know something was wrong. I had no previous symptoms. They caught me very, very early. Research on CLL told you what it was. It's a problem with your white cells. We said, well, what does that mean? Well, we don't know. It was extremely frustrating because they told me, well, we'll call this place and they'll get you in within 3 weeks. Well, you just told me I've got cancer. So I waited 3 weeks, never got a call back from the doctor's office that was supposed to call me. And that was the worst part of it. I'm not one of those people that jumps to conclusions and says, oh, gee whiz, I'm going to die. But at the same point in time, I want to know what's going on, and I want to be able to talk to people. And my wife, I want to be able to tell her what the prognosis is and what they tell me the treatment's going to be and how serious this is. I want to share this with my children. They have a right to know. But at the same point in time, I can't share it with them because I don't know anything. So I wasn't fearful, I was frustrated. And that's maybe even worse, to be frustrated because you can't get to the information that you need and you know the information is out there. I called my primary care physicians and told them I needed to see an oncologist. So I went to see her, and she was the one that gave me the initial prognosis. And she said, you're so early in this phase, and we typically don't even start treatment on people at this stage. Why? If you know the disease is there and you know there's a treatment for it, start it early and finish it early instead of waiting until somebody's critically ill and then trying to do emergency work on them. That doesn't make sense to me. So she also recommended to me a doctor. She said, he's got a clinical trial going on for CLL, and perhaps that would be one of the places where you could get in on a clinical trial, and if you're willing to do that, which I was more than happy to do. So they made me an appointment the next week. He was able to get me into the clinical trial, for which I'm forever grateful. To get into the trial, we went through a background and an interview process, and then I don't know if I was a good participant for the trial or how it worked. It was kind of invisible to me as to the steps they went through to get me involved in the clinical trial. But then he called me and said, "You're in, let's get started," and we did. We started immediately. The average appointment when we went in, they put you through the regular physical thing. Is there any change in your medications? What's your blood pressure? How you feeling today? Everything okay? Which arm do you want to use? And then it was typically 12 to 20 vials of blood that were drawn. But the lab results were back almost instantaneously. And that's always very good. I want to know what the deal is and what I need to do. You tell me what to do, I'll do it. But I need to know from you what it is you want me to do and the circumstances that we've got to go through. Support base is a prime factor in everything that you do. Every time we went, Becky drove me there, she drove me back. She was at my side the whole time. That kind of thing is invaluable to you. You can't replace it. My wife gives me all the support I need. In terms of support from my oncologist, it was just normal appointments. There was things that were offered to me if I wanted counseling, but mentally I didn't feel like I needed it. I was coping with everything that was going on. Never missed a day's work. Still did all the work at home, mowed grass, cut down trees, do those kinds of things, The clinical trial has changed my life in many ways, I suppose, as far as my experience and what I'd like to see in the future. I couldn't ask for anything more than what I got. My hope for other people would be that they were as fortunate as I was. I think you have to be your own advocate. It's up to you to do something and change things. Your car starts to knock, you don't wait until the engine fails to go take it to the mechanic and see what's going on. So I've got an early diagnosis as far as I'm concerned. That was a great advantage to me that they caught it early on. It was surprising that it was caught by a dermatologist, but that's okay too. I'm not in a position to bankrupt my family for treatments for something that involves only me. So it was a great relief financially and emotionally to be able to get into the trial, and I couldn't be happier with the process that we went through. And I would do it again if I needed to. Your outlook toward life, I think as you get older, it changes, regardless of whether or not you're sick. But other things become more important. You know, it's one of those kind of things where you start to look at things and you think, you know, I only got maybe 10 more years. Changes the way you do things. My dreams for the future, yeah, I want to be 90 years old and I want to be in decent health where I can do what I want to do, travel when I want, work when I want, do the things I like to do. And still have good health, of course.